I'd like to cover a game between Bobby Fischer and Ben Larsen, played in Denver, 1971. It's a French winnower. The game started out by e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4. So we have a French winnower. Then we have the normal continuation of e4. And then normally black would play c5 here, but black plays knight e7, which is a typical move played after c5. So we just have a transposition of some moves. White plays a3, forcing bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, and now black plays c5. Normally black would have played knight e7 here. And then Bobby Fischer plays a4 with the idea of bringing the bishop to a3 to control this diagonal with black. But typically white would play queen to g4. So now black plays knight on b to c6, hitting both the d4 and the e5 pawns, especially the d4 pawn, which is a typical theme in the French. White knight to f3, developing a piece defending d4. Bishop to d7, bishop to d3. So now, typically black will castle king side. This bishop now lined up to the king side, and now I guess one possible continuation is that black could castle. This is just a variation, not the actual main line. And then now white does have this possible sacrifice of bishop takes h7 check, king takes bishop, knight to g5 check, and now the king actually has to come to g6, and then white would probably play h4 with a nice attack. And just to let you know, don't play your king back to g8 because of the continuation of queen to h5, rook over. This leads to checkmate. I'll just show you. Check, 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 and mate. So don't do that. So that's just one continue. So black did not castle, but played queen to c7 with the idea of bringing f6, plain f6, hitting the e5 pawn again. White castles c4, sort of relieving some tension in the center, forcing the bishop back to e2. Now f6, attacking that e5 pawn. Rook to e1, very good move. I don't know if I would have found it personally. I probably would have played the bishop to here, but bringing the rook to where the king is, and with possible pawn exchanges, that rook being on e1 will prove very beneficial. And also with bringing the rook to e1, white cannot play the continuation of immediately f takes e5, d takes e5, knight takes, and then if queen takes, white has this continuation of check, getting the queen. So one of the good reasons the rook is, or why white played the rook there. So instead of castling, black plays knight to g6. Now white plays a3, or bishop to a3. Now black can take the pawn. So f takes e5, d takes e5, knight on c takes e5, knight takes. So we have some exchanges. Now white plays queen to d4, hitting this pawn. Interesting of what black should do. Black decides to play knight to g6. The queen could now take this pawn, regaining its pawn. But white decides to play bishop to h5, pinning the knight, and getting more central control. Now what is black to do? Well, black will play king to f7, but an option is playing castling long, but then white can play a5, and the continuation would probably be a6, and then bishop to c5. The bishop's going to come here, control these dark squares. The queen and this rook are going to have to move, and looks like white will have a good game, so probably not an option. So black plays king to f7. Now white with the king there, king sort of making its home here, so white's going to decide to try to open up the f file, get it some nice attack on the king. So whoops, wrong way on my arrow key. f4, obviously with the intention of playing f5, opening the f file. Rook on h to e8, f5, e takes f5, effectively forced. Queen takes d5 check, king to f6, and then bishop to, well, white will play bishop to f3. This is one of these debated moves of what should white really play here, and people really didn't like this move and suggested the continuation of bishop to d6, but this sort of leads to just a ho-hum ending for white after queen to d8, bishop to f3 anyways. The reason white played this bishop to f3 is because of this move, bishop to c6. Now queen check, king f7, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes c4, king to f6, queen takes c6, queen to b6 check, and then the exchange of queens. You can see that while white does have the one pawn advantage, the pawns are doubled. So let's just back up. So white plays bishop to f3. And now Larsen plays knight to e5, complicating matters. Instead of just going, he could have played rook takes e1 check, but that's just going to lead to his eventual loss, so he decides to complicate the matters and exchange some material but get an advantage. So what I mean by this is, because white's going to play queen to d4 now, the real threat of white bringing the bishop to here to d6, king to g6. Now white's going to get or exchange off this rook for these two pieces. So rook takes knight, queen takes bishop, queen takes bishop, and now black's going to get the initiative. Rook on a to d8, queen takes b7, getting a pawn, queen to e3, forcing the king to f1, rook to e2, now threatening mate, but now this allows white to get in a move before checkmate, which was all that Bobby Fischer needed. So queen to c6 check, rook to e6, and then a beautiful move, leaving the queen in take. And as we'll see, there'll be some exchange of material. So rook to f2, king to g1, rook takes g2 check. Actually discover check and check. Rook takes g2, queen to d2, king to h1, rook takes queen, bishop takes b6, queen takes c3. So we see that sort of white got two rooks and black got a queen and two pawns. But now it's three pieces versus the queen. Rook to g1 check, king to f6, bishop takes a7. Uh-oh, white gets another pawn back, but now we got a passer. Well, black has its own passer, f4. Bishop to b6, clearing the way for the pawn. Queen takes c2, take another pawn, create another pass pawn. a5, and basically black cannot stop this a pawn. Tries to with queen to d2, getting out of the way with check. king to e6, a6, queen to e3, bishop to b7, queen to c5, rook over, pawn to c3, and that pawn's going to queen. And that's it for that game between Bobby Fischer and Bent Larsen.